Welcome back to Lit versus Genre, everybody. I am Steve.
And I am Jeff.
And Jeff, we are here for which episode are we on now? Six?
Episode 7.
Seven. Episode
7.
seven.
Only one left, bro.
Only
One
one
left.
left. Only one left. Eye of the World confrontation coming up.
It feels like a second to last episode, I'd say.
Yeah. Like it kind of like left you at the end of it, like ready, like okay,
Mhm.
we're going, we're gonna
Yeah.
go there.
It even
We're
went a
gonna
little
do
further than I thought.
something when we get there. Like something's going to happen. But I mean, that's how I felt in the book too. I was like, something's going to happen once we get here.
Right.
I don't know what. But yeah, so I think it was a good like little lead off into the finale sort of episode.
I hate to start at the end, but just because we're talking about it, I thought it was over when Rand was at the door and was like, spoilers, everybody, it's me. I thought that was, gonna be it. But then they went a little bit further, and I liked the added part, and I like the look of the blight and everything. But we can talk more about all those details at the end. But just I was surprised they went that added little bit, but I'm glad they did.
Yeah. So okay, so let's get into the episode proper.
Let's do it.
There's a lot of things to talk about, Jeff. I feel like the main thing that I think needs to be addressed, the elephant in the room, is Nynaeve's stalking behavior. Somebody has to have a talk with her about appropriate displays of affection.
And this is how she got so good at tracking, bro.
Exactly.
She stalks people. Like, you wanted to know where that came from.
That's true.
You're seeing firsthand. So I mean, I am a fan of the continued tracking theme, and that Lan even makes a joke about it. I'm down. I'm down for that. But no, please continue if you had more to say on this count.
Okay, no, I guess we should. That was just my little joke. I guess we should start in order and deal with the ways first.
I feel like it's the only way we'll have any semblance of structure for this talk.
And let me say this: I kind of liked this better, that we weren't jumping around to different storylines in this one. Like,
they're all together now.
Yeah, they're all together, and I was much more engaged. I will say this just straight from the outset. I like this episode so much more than the previous two episodes. Like, I was
things happen.
Things happen. Like
the plot moved forward,
and like the emotions read. Like the emotions didn't seem like, oh, we're forcing this emotion here. It felt like, I mean, there were some weird things between the characters. There was like a reveal that I was like, again, I wish I kind of knew it.
I know what you're talking about.
I wish I knew it right away, because like it would mean more to me than for just to be sprung on me here.
Right.
But I was still with it. I was like, oh, I actually care about these emotions, whereas I didn't really care about Stefan. I didn't really care about Moiraine's sacrifice in the previous one.
I feel like they had a lot more to get through in this. So there was just a lot more driving this episode than kind of the last two, which were very singular, in my opinion. But if we are starting at the beginning, we should start with the mom and the pregnancy, the fight, all that stuff.
Right.
So it is kind of funny how that kind of, it was awesome. But then when I do think about the episode, I do imagine them in the waves, because it's not them in that opening scene.
Right. So that opening scene, I thought it was cool. I felt like that fight was what felt a little over the top in a way that like I couldn't quite like put my finger on, because like you know me, I'm like Hong Kong action cinemaphile. Love like the kind of over the top fight scenes, hugely choreographed fight scenes.
Right.
I feel like the tone of the show, though, it didn't feel like it matched it to me. Like maybe if she did like 2 cool things, I would have been like, oh, that's really cool. But she did like 8 cool things or something, and I was like, it feels like it's just being cool to be cool,
I'd say it's the same symptom, right? Or that we've
Mhm.
seen before. This is just like the step in and Moraine, but just on a smaller scale. They like really wanted to lean into, isn't this awesome? What she's doing. Like Aiel are such good fighters, and they totally are. And it's
Mhm.
crazy impressive to see a woman this pregnant doing it. I mean, it's amazing. I have not seen a I don't think a pregnant woman fight scene like that. I was like, this is cool. But yeah, after the like third or fourth one, it's
Yeah.
like I feel like we're kind of hitting the same note again. Um,
And it was
you know,
like very Zack Snyder, like shot in
mm,
slow mode and everything. I just felt like I was
mhm.
watching, like Justice League or something when we were watching it because it was just
Yeah.
like so like they really like went for it in a way that
Yeah,
just
they just went a little far, again, just
yeah.
slightly past the point that I think they need to. It's like the land scene when
Mhm.
Lan, rips the shirt.
Right.
It's like that. They just don't quite know, I think, when to cut themselves a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And to be fair to them, they'll learn as time goes on from feedback, rewatching the scenes, rewatching the season, so but yeah,
Well, I
I
don't
think it's
know.
similar to what we've seen
Let us know in the comments,
fully.
y'all, everybody, how you felt. Was it like
Yeah.
gnarly? Were you like, yeah, this is rad? I mean, it was kind of rad, and
I
I
think it
think
was pretty
like,
cool.
I think like
Yeah,
also
overall.
like
Yeah.
the labor
Mhm.
complication to the fight. Yeah, it was like a cool thing to
Yeah.
kind of like
It was
keep your
really neat.
attention. So I
Absolutely.
I did
Absolutely.
like it. I did like it. But y'all, let us know
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
subscribe
Oh,
down below. So let us know while you're typing in
right.
those thoughts, which we read
Right.
every one. We read every
We
one,
do.
or Jeff
We
does.
totally do. I just read all of our
Jeff
lessons and
does.
responded to a lot of them. Well,
Um,
because that's the fun for a lot of us is to get that out of that conversation. And there is one thing that I did promise people in the comments that we would talk about today. Um, but for this, I do just want to say overall, I think this was a success. The opening, I think it's a scene a lot of people want to see. In that it's Aiel, and so book readers want to see Aiel. Um, some people might be like why this particular scene? Like some book readers, like there's so many other scenes. The usual thing, right? Like why this when you could have shown us something else. But overall, I think that most people would generally like this because, yeah, it's cool to have that complication. As you just said, it makes the scene more intriguing. And I don't know about everybody else, but when the Heron Mark blade was there at the end, chills. I was like,
mm,
oh, I was like, Tam, it's Tam. And so like I totally freaked out. So for me, like that was also a great cap on that scene for me. So I think they hit the same beat too much in the scene, but overall, I thought it was cool.
okay, so
I think
let's
it
talk
worked.
about how do you
Mhm.
feel about when they go in the ways, how Matt is dispatched, all of the
Right.
explanations which we have to have. And like I didn't know until reading the comments
Right.
all this like, oh, they think it was like reshot and
Mhm.
all that sort
Mhm.
of stuff. Did you buy like Moraine's sort of explanation that if he is the Dragon Reborn, he is evil and we need to keep him away as
Well,
opposed to
dude, when
bringing
she's
him?
like, "I need you to send a message to the Red Ajah," I was
Right.
like, "Oh,
I
you
like it.
gotta do my boy Matt like that."
I like
What?
Mean Moraine. I like Mean Moraine a
So,
lot.
I mean, Rand gets like more and more disheveled as this episode goes on to the end when she leaves with
Yeah.
Rand. Like, it's kind of awesome. But yeah, so me and explanations. Overall, I think they're good. But I do want to address that point that some people brought up in the comments about that moment we liked from the last episode where it
Mm.
felt like a character-driven moment of Matt staying because he would, that was more forced upon like the writers as opposed to their choice because he's leaving. I thought that's hilarious if that's true. If the the main thing we liked in the last episode was actually out of their control, that was humorous to me. But if that's true, in terms of the explanations in this, overall, I liked it because that's to me what the characters would do. Now, the argument can be made like, why are we spending so much time in it? Sure, right? Like, let's do it and then move on. But overall, I did like that they were talking about it, thinking about it, having a conversation about it. That Moraine and Lan had a conversation about like, this is what I want. Like, if you're going to do something, change or not, show the ramifications of that thing you just did. So
Mhm.
they decided that Matt's not there. You got to deal with that. And I feel like they did address it. So I appreciated that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it. What did
Mhm.
you think about
That's all I'm
the?
asking.
What did you think about the look of the ways and like how that
Yeah,
whole
I want to
scene
talk
played
about
out?
that. I did want to talk about that because I feel like I got more of it near the end where we got to see a little bit more of the bridges. I like this idea that everything was this like post basically, like this rocky,
Hmm.
what's the number of sides, like octagonal,
Yeah, they
like
look like
rock pull, right?
hexagons or whatever. Yeah.
Hexagons. So, and then like even a bridge is just like single sets of them,
Mm,
or a stair is them, but like that. So I thought that that was kind of neat that they were all aesthetically built out of the same thing. I thought that
mm,
was kind of cool. It's not. It's funny. There's so much imagery by the fit that's happened over these decades since the book came out. It is funny to me that so little of it, at least from what I'm seeing, is being used with these choices. So I was hankering for some of the more traditional art I've seen associated with the ways, but it was fine.
oh, you would expect them to
Yeah.
use more like fan art for what
Well,
they're
just not
doing?
not necessarily fan art, but like various art that's come out associated with the world, where whether it's Aes Sedai rings we're talking about or images of the ways. But overall, it was fine. I just expected more bridges, more platforms,
More
like that. But
platforms.
that was all right. It's fine. You
More
know,
platforms. All right.
give me platform. But again, it wasn't a huge thing. It wasn't anything for me. The ways was more about the magic side of things. Like those are the elements that more stood out to me in the ways. I will say before I get into those sort of comments, I did like Rand doing the thing we talked about where he like is constantly cutting off Lowell. He's like, we got to Lowell.
Oh,
You don't
he
need to
did do
toss.
that. That was like your
He's,
note. Cut him off, and he
yeah.
cut him off there. It was
And
good.
But now, one wrong step, and you plummet into a void which knows no end, or
There's
worse.
something worse than falling into a bottomless pit.
Oh, yes, certainly. I can think of at least.
It's all right, Leo.
And then later, when Lil's like, you'll have to, I beg you all for patience. And Rand's like, if he's asking for patience, we're all dead. It's like, I like that. I thoroughly enjoyed that. So that to me was fun.
Yeah, that was all good. And I
Yeah.
gotta say, I like
Hmm.
not the look of the wind, but I like how the
Hmm.
wind worked in
I was
this
going to say, I
better.
wonder if we were talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, better than in the book because they gave them
More
all,
character driven.
each all these individual character problems, which I know many of them
Hmm.
are quite controversial and divisive.
Sure.
But because
Sure.
those are there, it the
Hmm.
wind has more to do. I can't believe I just said that sentence.
Oh,
The wind has more
wow,
to
you
do
did.
in this.
And I don't think you're wrong
Mhm.
necessarily. Like, yeah, you're right because they each have a secret, a thing, basically.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, yeah.
I
No,
like
I
the
thought
wind.
it was interesting. Go ahead.
I like the wind. I like how it worked just plot
Mm.
wise in there, and
Mm.
yeah, I feel like all these things, they
It was a more character-driven change, so that's cool. Because
exactly.
previously the wind was just like bones eat blood, and it was creepy, and I thought that was
Mm,
cool, the creepiness vibe.
mm,
Um, but it is even worse to have someone like shove your worst fears about yourself
right.
back at you. And so afterward, when Rand was crying, like I believed it. You know what I mean? If you've got a voice that sounds like you, almost, it seems like they were using the character voices, at least in some parts, as if they were talking to themselves with the wind.
Yeah, right.
That I thought was cool. Like if you heard your own voice telling you your own fears, like that's that's messed up. So yeah, no, I would say that I was mostly in for a lot of this. And Steve, you don't even know when Lan said, "Where's Fal Dara?" I was like, "Are we going to Fal Dara?"
Yeah.
Because if we're going to Fal Dara, this guy's happy. So I was overall pumped for a lot of this. And then what do you think I'm going to say with the end then? And
And
then
then, well, I'm thinking like Faldara
uh,
wasn't what you wanted because it's really
even
up
before Fal Dara.
even before
But you're
Faldara.
also right. You're also correct.
Uh, So yeah, you'll just have to feel like something happened before they're out of the ways that you didn't like. You didn't like the naive,
Yeah,
another naive
there you go.
power blast or whatever. I mean,
There it
what
is.
the,
Yeah, I'm
she just power blasts
just
sometimes. You know, it's like you can't control it.
oh,
Sometimes you're just gonna power blast all over everybody, and it happens, man. You can't,
ah,
you know.
ah. I hate it. I hate it so much.
Mm.
But sure. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean that's definitely what we're going with. Have we written ourselves into a situation that seems like we don't have a way out of it? Naive power blast. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's not quite as bad when we know that this is what she does in emotional circumstances. I
Yeah.
mean, and that it to be fair, that does relate to the book to a degree.
Mm.
It's just narratively, I don't think is a very strong choice. And then because she doesn't power blast in other situations or seem like she's trying to, I don't know. It's just weird to me.
I
But
can get like
anyway,
this Hawk out, thing that she hawks out. Like
yeah,
you wouldn't like me when I'm angry. And her eyes,
yeah,
if her eyes
basically that's
turned
what it is.
green, I would be really into it. I'd be super into it. But like, I get that. Like when
Everyone
the
has the different
voices
eye
were
color.
happening, like the voices in her head, like made her real
Yeah,
emotional, and she power
yeah.
blasts as you do.
I do. It is you're right. They've just gone though. We're gonna have you Hulk out thing.
I like it.
Which killing me, Steve. But anyway, I said my piece on that. Um, I feel like there was one other thing. Oh, someone mentioned this in the comments too. Just the trouble with using the power for the ways as opposed to
Oh right.
like the leaf and everything, right? Which it seems like they had to do because of construction. Like, I would imagine, well, I used to build sets, that it would be easier to build a football goalpost, right?
Mm.
As opposed to like the vine wall that then like expands. So what do we know that makes magic things happen? The power. So, oh yeah, we're using the power to open the way gate. But then you've got this whole thing of like, you can't use the power inside because then that'll bring the black wind, but then they're going to have to use the power when they leave anyway. So it just feels like there's some awkwardness with the power there and could cause some complications like how are the Trollocs using the Waygates? If you need the one power to use it, do they have channelers? How is Pat and Fane using it? Can Pat and Fane? Is Pat and Fane really the dark one? So, I think there are some, world building problems there. But yeah, that's me for the ways.
That's all going way over my head. I didn't think two thoughts about that as we were going through. I'm
I
like,
figured.
sure, cool, let's do it.
That's why I'm just mentioning it as like as a cherry on top. Like this is going to be stuff people talk about as a
Yeah, for
problem, and
sure,
I
for
agree.
sure.
That's all.
And let me like kind of bring up that like
Mhm.
I also
Mhm.
don't hate Pat and Fane showing up behind them as much in the show as I do in the book for a reason that I don't even understand. I think
Yeah,
maybe
why?
because it's so blasé, like it's not as like it was so
Mm.
like belabored in the book. Like I had to hear about like every last misadventure, which was a
Oh,
thing that like you liked hearing about all of his like various
oh,
misadventures
where he's like
following them
complaining and
the
everything.
whole
Well, this
time.
they can just show it, right? They can cheat perspective to show us his perspective, like he wasn't doing in the
Right,
book.
right.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
and maybe they'll do that in the next episode, right? I don't even
Yeah.
know why he's there. I don't know
Well,
why he's there in the book. I don't
they've
know why.
left.
Huh?
Yeah, because that's crazy. Actually, I'm
Yeah,
glad
like
you
he
brought that
didn't
up
show up
because
in town yet. He's just, I
well, he
guess.
he did, but nothing happened,
Oh,
right?
right, right.
So
Like
so
Perrin thought he saw. Right, Perrin saw.
right, precisely. But yeah, they didn't interact with them at all, and now they're off, So it just gonna feel like where in the world is Pat and
But,
Fane?
well, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I guess they're just sort of placing him where he needs to be for later books, and we'll go from there. Which I can that narrative choice, in the books we had talked about how uh, you know, mild spoiler, there's more with Pat and Fane in the books, in this first book. But that to me is understandable to cut. Like that does not have a huge immediate effect on the plot of book one. So this to me is what I would lump into the thing that I think most people are understandable of like, oh, we need to cut some stuff for time. Like,
Yeah,
sure.
I like that he just jaunts out of the ways in his
I
funny
love that
walk,
act. Dude, I love
and
that
we're good.
actor.
That's all I need.
Dude, that dude,
Solid.
that actor just jauntily walks out of that thing, and I'm like,
I know you
you
don't even
can't
get to
miss.
see his face. It's just like from behind, he's doing a
But he
jaunty
rocks
walk.
it.
Yeah,
He
I like
rocks
it.
it. Like,
I
I mean,
like it.
I'm almost sad we don't get his scenes in this because I'm liking that actor so much.
Yeah.
But for like, writing structure, makes sense not to have. So yeah. Um,
So Fal
so then they
Dara,
get into
Fal
Fal Dara.
Dara. Here's my
Mhm.
thing that you're gonna complain about, and that I understand what they're doing. They just took
Right.
Baerlon and Fal
Yeah.
Dara, and they just went.
Oh yeah, they took like Baerlon, Camelin. Well, more Baerlon, yeah.
More Baerlon,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, because it's not like they met him on the street or anything. Yeah, more Baerlon, and they just rolled it in and made it Fal Dara. Yeah.
Right, right. And the whatever his name, Agamemnon or whatever his name was,
Mhm.
is like a real jerk in
Agomar,
this
yeah.
one compared to like
Ah,
a nice dude in
ah,
the thing. I
I know.
I don't
Why?
care. I knew
He's
you
so
would be upset,
nice.
but I don't
He's
care.
so nice. I love this guy. He talks poetry. He talks like meaning of life. He tries to help Moraine, and then they just do this to him, right? Like I'm more mad about this than I'm about Abel Coffin.
Oh
Like there was
boy.
a whole like movement of, why are you gonna do Matt's dad dirty like this? Like Matt's dad is super pleasant and fun. I'm like, why are you doing Aggie like this? He's great. He's so nice. He's trying to help the group at every turn. He is a class act throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
One of my favorite characters, straight up in book one after the reread. On the reread, like Bornhald and him, I was just like, oh man, I love these characters. And just like, why? Like this is the sort of change that I just don't understand. I get that they want a moment, right? Like they want that moment of Moraine being interrupted and her getting to say the thing and like quieting the room. And they want the moment between like Moraine and the sister to like talk, like complain about the brother, sort of. They want those moments, but it's like, are those moments that good? Like, are they that great that you needed to completely alter a character that fans might like? It just feels as if why. How many fans are going to care about this? I'm sure I'm in the minority, 100%. Like
Mm,
this one, I know I'm in the minority. This isn't
mm.
like a change to parent or something, right? But it's like, but why? Like, why do it if you don't need to? Like, the scene could have been written with the same tension and it preserves some of who he is. I don't get it. But anyway, man, I said I wasn't gonna fan rage about anything, and I'm so fan
Yeah.
raging about this. But
Again,
again,
when we get into this,
yeah,
I have no input because I don't care about this
right,
guy. I don't have any
right,
like, oh, you're breaking
right,
my heart
exactly.
here about this guy.
Right,
I read
but
him
that's
in
the
the
exact
book. He
thing,
was
right?
fine, but he wasn't. I didn't like
Right.
love him that much as you apparently did in the book. That I'm like
Right. So
heartbroken
exactly,
about this.
you don't care, right? So it's like, so if someone's not going to care and a fan will care, why change, right? Like unless again you're making a more powerful moment, and this to me just didn't.
I just
But I'd love
can't
to hear
get.
from people.
Yeah, yeah.
Were
Let
they
us
sold on these
know.
moments?
I can't get on
Yeah,
board of like, oh, don't change it. I don't know. We've talked about it to death.
I
I'm
mean, like
not gonna go
you
over
got to
it
have a
again.
reason,
Got it? No, you
something.
don't. I just no.
Ah,
Then my answer is
well,
just
no,
no.
you don't have to have a reason.
Counterpoint, no.
Obviously, as we said long ago about adaptations, you can do anything you want in adaptation, but then you're getting certain fan reactions. So I
So
just don't know why you'd want that fan reaction. But anyway, it's a point we've talked about before. You're right.
yeah.
We can
So
definitely move on.
let me kind of say what I think is going
Mhm,
on here. It is awkward because the thing that I did miss about Fal Dara, I don't care about
mhm,
that dude. The thing I missed
mhm,
about it was this sense of like when we roll up there in the book,
mhm.
they feel doomed. Like it does not feel like a good scene in that
Yep,
town. Like they
you're bringing me
know
to the
they're
next thing I want to
going
talk about.
down. They
Yeah,
know they're getting crushed soon by something. And I was like,
yeah,
"Oh, here we're just everybody's just living their life. Everybody like there's no
right.
sense that oh, we're in big trouble here." And I
Hmm.
mean, and so I guess like because they want to kind of do the Baerlon scenes really is all they really want to do here in
Yeah, I
Fal Dara
guess.
that they kind of go, "Oh, well if we make this guy be like, whatever, we got it. Like he's not
Mm.
he doesn't have the sense that, oh, we're really effed this time. Then
Right.
that kind of makes that work, and you can have the town be more like a normal
Be
town, so
more
you can have
normal.
the Min scenes and all the
The
Baerlon
min
scenes.
scenes.
So like
Yeah.
I get it, but
Mm.
I did miss that sense of like,
Yeah.
oh, I think that's kind of cooler to roll up on something, especially when you're going to go in the Blight and it's so bad, and
Well,
have this town
they're
be
all moving
like,
out.
they're all moving out, they're getting out of there, the
Yeah.
Blight's coming, and I like that feel better. So that I think is my complaint about it. Again, I understand why,
Mhm.
but it's because, and maybe again it's not embodying things, it's going like, oh, we want to have these scenes from somewhere else and we're going to slot it here and put this here and put that
Yeah.
there, and then that, because you're trying to juggle all those balls, you don't go, wait, what if
Mhm.
this was the town right on the Blight? It probably
Yeah.
wouldn't be as nice as this town is here.
Exactly. Exactly. So I mean, this is what we were talking before about like embodying where a character is at. Like I had a moment earlier in this episode where I was so happy that they were all talking about Matt because that's what they would do. And then I was happy that they asked about the Black Wind because that's what they would do. But then when they were walking with Lowell after that, I was like, why haven't they asked him again what it is now that they're all walking? Like that's what the character would do next. And it's the same sort of problem here. Like, if you've got a town on the edge of the Blight, like, yeah, they're gonna behave differently. And this town didn't feel that different. So we lose the the complexity of the world building that you have in Wheel of Time. That's so, what a lot of fans love the series for. Um, and so, yeah, no, I really, yeah. Now that we're talking about it, yeah, no, I miss that. I miss and
Sure.
just narratively, it's a cool thing to go to a city that's on the edge preparing for this like battle that they can't win and the way they're living their lives. And sure, would that have added some extra tension to the Min scene? Yeah, but you could totally have it. So I get your point. I think you're right. Like it makes those moved Baerlon scenes easier, right? To just
Hmm.
like kind of slot out, slot
Right.
in. But I think you still could have had it with the tone. And what also was super weird to me is just, again, I've tried not to comment too much on Land because they've just taken his character in this completely different direction. I know some people like it fine, some people hate it. And I've like already said, like, it's totally different. I just try to comment on the way I feel the actor does with the role.
He
But
really is
this,
snuggly, cuddly Land. Like he's so cuddly. I just feel like
so
he's
they got
super cuddly.
fangs. They got fangs.
Tronic was massive.
Bigger than you?
This is delicious. Much bigger. Come on, eat some. With big teeth and fangs.
I feel like we're just doing a trope of like any warrior guy who's got a heart of gold, like
Mm.
basically
Mm.
like but anyway, that's not the rabbit hole I'm gonna go down. But what I do want to mention is the it really bothered me when the leader of Fal Dara is like, we've held this border forever. Nothing's going to stop us. Like, they know that's not true because Malkir got eaten by the Blight. Like, even if you're thinking, we don't want your help, they still understand the precarious position they're in. And to not have that again, just so much of Land's backstory felt undermined. Like, we did get it, but like there's a reason why people are treating him the way they're treating him. There's a reason that the borderlands feel the way they are because the blight is moving. Yeah, again, we just completely lost the sense that this is a city on the edge of like chaos, and that chaos has already consumed one place, and a character from that place.
Mm.
And that all has such a cool narrative and world drive behind it. It's sad to see it go.
Okay. What did
Yep.
you think? But
That's
I
fair.
will say, I agree with
Mhm.
that point. I will say I was like just so much more engaged in this episode than
I would
the
agree.
previous two. I was
I'd agree.
down with the
Yeah.
core group. We're with the core group. The
Hmm.
drama is between the core group. And
Yep.
the drama's
Yep.
better. I think like the people, like the
Hmm.
arguments that people got into, the like
Yep.
all of that, I bought all of it. I'm like, yeah, I think this
Mhm.
is the way these people would be feeling and the way they would be mad at each other. And
Right.
like all of those emotions felt much more real to me than like Moraine's emotions in the previous episode. So I was really
I,
engaged in all that, and I really enjoyed a lot of that in this episode.
I would agree. I would agree. Like I said, I wasn't feeling as much of those things until we talked about it, maybe because I was trying to like not let myself experience the loss because I love Fal Dara so much. But I would agree. Like as I said from the start of this, I think this episode was more effective than the last two because we were moving the plot forward. I found it was interesting. Like you said, the characters together. We just felt more like a narrative push and drive, which was cool. Don't get me wrong. I think the last episodes, as we talked about, had some cool emotional scenes for sure. Um, but I know that you were not you're not a
Nah,
huge fan of Last
I don't
Duel.
like them.
Neither was I. But I would say this one definitely got me. Oh, this one got me excited. I was excited watching this to see like Tam's sword over like Rand's mom, right? Or to get to Fal Dara, or oh, we're already going to the Blight. Like this definitely had me like oh, like in a way the last couple episodes hadn't. So I would absolutely agree with you. Um, I'd love to talk a little bit more if we can nail down some reasons why that might be besides what we've said. And then the main thing that I want to talk about, and I'm just mentioning in case you feel it pulls into this other conversation, is I want to talk about the choice that seems to drive this episode. This idea of everyone will die except the dragon that they like put on this situation.
Right.
So that's sort of because that's sort of the crux of this episode to a degree. Um, and
Well,
in some ways, it really annoys me. In some ways, I think it works. But
let me
let's
talk. So
dive in.
that scene that you're kind of talking
Yeah.
about, they're all sitting there talking, and then
Mhm.
you know, while Moraine's talking to them, and then she's like, "You all decide," and then she juts out. Up until
Right.
that point, I was like, because I still don't like none of that's clear as to why,
Right.
and I think somebody even says
So
why, and
weird.
there's no real answer, and I don't
Mhm.
like any of that. But like,
Hate it.
yeah, but do you like it better in the book? Because like I was watching and I'm
Right.
like, I don't understand why they were going there in the book either, and I don't understand.
Right.
Like I feel like they're kind of forced into this because this is the plot
Mhm.
of the book that
Yeah.
happens, and that's the part that I like. I do, it's
Mhm.
still not clear to me, you know. And yeah, they're adding a new
Right.
unclear thing on top of the original unclear thing, so it's not really. I don't feel like it's any better either way.
Right.
Once she was gone and the kids just got to argue about real stuff that I
Mhm.
understand and that has like emotional consequences,
Right.
then I was super into it, right? I was like, once we stopped talking about the stupid eye and like how everybody's gonna die there, I was way more into what was happening.
Yeah, I do feel this, and I do hear what you're saying. Sort of like sympathy for for the showrunners in this regard of like, hey,
Right?
you got this ending. I mean, I honestly can't believe they're doing it. Like as we talked about before, I so thought they were skipping this or they were going to end with something in book two. Um, I did not think they would do this because it's universally regarded as as universal as any commentary on something could be as problematic slash weak ending. So I do think they're trying to help it out, right? With this added narrative that they had in the previous episode, and we commented on before. Then like, what? Why does everyone else die? What does that mean for rain and land? So I hear what they're trying to do for stakes. I hear what they're trying to do for um, choices, right? Because we spent a lot of time in the last episode talking about Moraine having a choice, but not really, and how that didn't work out so great. And
Right.
here they do have a choice, sort of, right, of going versus not. And so there is something good about that. It's just because the reason doesn't make a lot of sense. It's kind of hard to get behind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, I wasn't engaged until she
Yeah.
left, and then
Right.
they got to talk to each other. Jeff, I want to
Mhm.
get your opinion on what do you think of
Talk to me.
this Perrin has always been pining for egg thing. It came really out of left field and came to a
So left
boil
field.
super quickly.
So boiled. Yeah.
I but I like it. I like the idea of complicated because I think it more complicates parent this backstory for parent that they've made up with the wife. And
Right.
I really like it because it feels like weird and complicated and icky in a way that the wind like immediately gets to key in on because I rewound
Right.
that part at the wind because I actually like it's the sound mix is real
Yeah.
weird and I couldn't like I think I
I rewound it too.
rewound like 3 times what Perrin's wind said to him,
Yeah, I was like,
and
wait, what did they say to him?
and he
Yeah.
did say something about love. Now I forget what it said, but it did like allude to this. The wind
Oh, it
alluded to
did.
it, and
It did. It
so
said that he didn't love his wife,
right, he
basically.
didn't love his wife. And
Yeah.
so then we get this, and like I like
Mhm.
it. Like it just feels very complicated to me. I
Yeah.
wish, like with everything, I
I
wish
just
I
wish I
had
knew it
known it.
sooner.
I wish I knew it sooner. Like I don't like
That's
reveals.
all.
I don't think reveals really work. And I now once it's revealed, I'm like, ooh, I'm into
Yeah.
it. Where before I was like, this seems awkward, and in
Mhm.
the first episode they
Yeah.
seem super awkward, and I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about it. And if we
Right.
had known that first episode that was what was going down, we could have had that interesting complication the whole
Ah,
show, you know. And then when it blows
yeah.
up here, like it wouldn't
Mhm.
feel so out of left field. So like the idea itself
Yeah.
I like, but I think again it's another idea kind of wrecked by.
Think they just try to go the backsplaining route, and it just doesn't it doesn't hit because of it. I would agree if I like remove myself as a book reader wanting to remain like book and just think about this change and what it could create. I agree. It creates some really cool tension between the characters. I think my favorite line Perrin ever said was when he was leaning real close to Randy. Is like,
Mm,
the only woman I've ever loved was my wife, like real
mhm.
husky, and I was like, okay, bro. like
Yeah,
I think I believe you. But it was a great line because it mirrored, of course, what the Black Wind had said to him. So I really liked that setup. I did.
right.
But Nynaeve being like, I'm so tired of you too. Well, for her to be tired of something, it had to have happened repeatedly. And I feel like we haven't been part of that at all. Or then
Well,
Rand being like, wait, you like Sleuth Rand is like, wait, you first asked her to marry you after I got with the Gray. And like that just
right.
all seemed weird. It just seemed like a later choice that they totally could have done from the entire time. So yeah, if you're going to make that change anyway, right? Like I completely agree. Let's have it from the get-go so we can appreciate it throughout. Some of the traveling people scenes could have even been more interesting if we could have told that,
Especially when
Perrin was more into her.
they're
Yeah.
trapped alone together, right? Like if I already have the
Exactly.
knowledge that, oh, he was maybe pining for
Mhm.
her before he married,
Yeah.
his wife or something. Now
Mhm.
those two are the ones that get separated off together. Tension City,
Oh,
right? Like
so
that's
much
great.
tension, right? Like, how is he going to act? He just killed his wife, who knew that he liked Egwene better. Because I'm sure that's what they were trying to set up when he's like, "You didn't go to Egwene's thing," and like that's why, because the wife knows that he liked Egwene. So I think that was the whole reveal of like why she seemed pissed at him, his wife in the first episode. But yeah, like again, to be clear, I'm not for the change, right? But I definitely agree if the change was going to be made, man, it could have made a lot parts more, could have been richer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Case
And then
closed,
this
y'all.
reveal would hit better. This reveal to the other characters would have hit better. We'd be like, oh, I'm smart. I already knew that. We get to have fun as watchers, in
Mhm.
that way. Yep. And I
Case
feel, of course,
closed, buddy. No reveals. Case
right.
closed. Are we
Well,
done? We're done with reveals, everybody. I'm calling a moratorium on all reveals because they just don't. They don't work. They're no
well, I
good.
mean, again, like I think that's the thing. Like you can have reveals to other characters. It's just the
Yeah.
reader viewer should already know.
Don't spring
But
it on
let's
me.
talk about the. We got to talk about the other reveal that ties to this as well. Well, I don't know. Maybe we should finish stakes. Yeah, let's finish stakes real quick. And I say this because we had some comments in the last video about like, oh, the stakes, were clear in the book about how, the Dragon Reborn could, is going to be the one to remake the world. And, if they go with the Dark One, it'll be bad. And like, I just want to make sure everyone knows like that you have read the first book, so you do know those stakes. When we were talking about stakes previously, it's because when you were reading the book, it felt like there weren't a lot of specific stakes. And feel free to,
Yeah, like
say it in
all
your
those
own words.
sentences you just
Yeah.
said are like mumbo jumbo, right? Like they're not.
Right.
They don't
Right.
feel real. It's hard for me to connect to
Like
like.
end of the world. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, end of the world's like so big, and like
Mhm.
I think like a lot of times, Doctor Who always had this similar problem. Like when if the world's
Mm,
ending, it's just too big. It doesn't feel like personal or immediate enough,
mhm.
and then like just the other kind of like just phrases and sayings like, oh, breaking of the world. He wouldn't even say
Right.
like
Like,
the
what is
ending of
the
the
breaking of the
world. You're like,
world?
it's broke. Oh,
Right.
it broke. Can we like super glue it? Like what? Like I don't
Right.
know
Are we
what that
cool? Yeah.
means. I don't know.
Mhm.
Like it was also like kind of
Mhm.
ephemeral. Those
Right.
stakes, and so they're not going to work as well for me unless if they're not as clearly defined.
And so I thought this was a good contrast point. And thank you for, reiterating your thoughts on that because I know that not everyone has watched our book ones. Um, I feel like again, that's what the writers are trying to do right now is make these stakes more specific for each character. Be like, okay, are you going to go on this trip knowing one of
Mm,
you will live maybe and everyone else dies?
right.
Like, do you do that? Right. And so I feel like they're trying to make those stakes like super specific for this. And I feel in, again, some ways that's good, but in other ways it doesn't quite make sense for characters, right? Well, I shouldn't say right. I'm going to say what my thought is, and you can say, like Lan, for instance, the way we see Lan and Nynaeve care about each other, um, I don't see either of them putting the other in harm's way. The same for Egwene and Rand. Now, Egwene does at least say, Moraine's wrong. I think we're all
Mm,
going to be fine.
mm,
I thought Egwene did a great job in that scene. I felt, a lot of the connection when she was talking with him about the water, and same for the Nynaeve and Lan scene. I feel like, we got to see these characters get close together, and that was cool. Again, character-driven moments. Um, but because of that, this idea that again they would all then ride off with only a couple of them surviving seems strange. So I don't know how to reconcile those moments because I like the idea, but it just doesn't seem to work from a character perspective. What are your thoughts?
Uh, yes. I don't know. It's yeah. I agree. Like I don't understand why the rest of them are gonna die. It's not really told. I don't know why anybody would
Mhm.
actually just
Or agree to do
believe
it?
believe that. Yeah, I mean, I just find it hard to be like, wait, why? I just want there to
Yeah,
be a
why would we
reason
all
why they
die?
all die.
Yeah.
Like, if
And why are you
I would
so sure
I would like
that
a
it's going to happen?
reason why we're going there. I would like a clear goal. I would
Yeah.
like some sort of like, but I never got that stuff. I never got that in the book. I'm not getting it here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like all of that.
Yeah.
You're 100% right.
Well, I think the characters would want that,
And then like
you
the
know?
embodying problem, like, like
Mm,
they just seem, I don't know, like Moraine's like, Lan, this might be your final moment. Go hang out
mm.
with this like uh little family that you like hang out with and
Right.
like chill and do dinner with and be cuddly Lan. He was like super cuddly. I was like, oh, let me entertain
So
the
cuddly.
kids now because I'm cuddly Lan. Um so like they
I
are kind
can't.
of then nodding in that moment that she's like, oh, go,
Mhm.
see these people because maybe it's the last time you'll see
Sure.
these people. Yeah, and then like maybe that would make like the the sex scene or whatever also like make
Mm.
more sense if they're like, okay, this is like
I
we're
feel they
both
didn't lean
gonna
into it
die.
though.
Right. Like it
But they
did seem to be
didn't.
coming from that place though.
No,
That didn't seem
it's
the
like they
feel of it.
said. Yeah, exactly right. That's what I was thinking. I was like, "Oh, they're doing the our last night alive, let's be
Mm,
together" thing,
yeah.
but not really. Like that's what happened, but
Hmm.
that's not how the characters felt
Right.
about this stuff. They're talking about how Land's not really Moraine's. Is it going to matter after tomorrow? Land didn't even seem. We don't. The family was so weird to me, like because there was never an introduction of exactly who they were, or he ends up saying it later,
Yeah.
but it was just odd to me. And there wasn't any moment of like him sort of saying goodbye to these people. Like I didn't get the feeling that Lan really cared about these people deeply. He was much more interested in seeing Nynaeve and joking with her, and then like having fun with a kid, than
Oh,
having a serious moment
dude,
with these people who he may never see again.
I
It was
gotta
just
talk.
weird.
I gotta talk about the moment where he Batmans and suddenly appears like right behind her. Like,
Hello.
Oh yeah, bro.
I I
Oh yeah.
laughed out loud. Like I was like, it like made me jump because he's so far away. The
He's
cut
so far
before
away.
he's like
He's so
all the way
far away.
inside the house talking to
Yeah.
like the little girl, and like then
Oh
suddenly
yeah.
he's there. Would the
Boom.
girl have been like, what happened to the little girl? Like, is she like, whoa, he just
That's what I was
disappeared?
waiting for when
Is
they
he the
came back in.
Flash? Like, how did he get over there?
He is cuddly and quick. That's our new land. So yeah.
Oh, that was
So
funny.
anyway, it was just odd. It was just this odd device for these characters that it felt like they didn't fully use. I will say that something that choice does then allow is to out the real one, right? Because
Mm,
if the whole point of this thing, and again, it's not like we've got any side moments with Moraine or Lan that seem to indicate this, but
mm,
I'm sure the fan theories are going to be, guys, Moraine did this whole thing about y'all gonna die except for the dragon. So the dragon would then say who they are,
mm.
which sure, right? Yeah, that makes sense. We haven't gotten any indication of that from Moraine or Lan, but at least that works. So I did like that, but then we've got the second backsplaining with Rand. So before I go to my thing, how did that moment hit for you? Because obviously this was it. This was the big reveal we've all been talking
Right,
about.
right.
How was it for you?
Yeah, I like it. I'm glad it's out in the open. I hate mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
Let's nip this one in the bud. Now we
Mm-hmm.
don't have to deal with it ever again, hopefully. And
Was that the
yay, we
only
got our
reason you
time.
liked it?
Yeah, because I hate the mystery. I absolutely abhor it. So yeah, great.
Right.
It's out. I was totally
Right.
into it. I was into
Mm-hmm.
them. I'm also really
Mm-hmm.
into them ditching everybody else and going just the two of them, because I really feel
Yeah.
like in the book, like everybody else is just kind of standing around being like kind of damsels in distress,
Mm-hmm.
not very
Mm-hmm.
convincingly. Like in the book, they try to convince
Yeah.
me that like maybe Moraine died or something, or maybe Nynaeve got seriously hurt, and I was like, I don't believe any of that. And so I like
And who
ditching
knows
them.
what's gonna happen in the show? Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? But
Anything.
I mean, I could
Yeah.
totally see everything. I mean, they could do just straight up everything that happens
Maybe.
in
Don't
the
say
end
it
of the
though.
book.
Just so there's
Right.
right.
Like all of
Um
that could be done with just Moraine and
it,
Rand. Like
it
100%.
could. Here's what I'll say. I love the end. So, I had really mixed feelings about this episode. Like the beginning, I was like, I'm liking this. I'm at Fal Dara, and all the other things that happened. I was like, I keep watching this. Then the middle happened. I was like, oh, and then the end happened. I was like, oh, all right, this is okay. This is awesome. So that was my
This
like grunt emotional
Yeah, I
journey
want I want
through.
next episode the full grunt synopsis first. And I will
I feel
try
like
to
I'm doing
guess.
like
All the listeners can kind of try and guess in their minds like what parts you're
where are the
grunting
moments.
about. Yeah, I
I
think
feel like I'm
that'll be
doing
a
like
lot of
Tim
fun.
from Tool Time or something. But so I love where it got us. Like I am two thumbs up. A character making a choice to save his friends, revealing something that he didn't want to do. Is makes total sense that Moraine would immediately go for it. I will. I think I will always love the knock door switch. I'll always love knocking on doors. Someone answers it, different person than we saw
Oh,
knocking.
right, right.
Good afternoon. Sorry to bother you. I'm looking for Mrs. Lippman's family.
I'll always enjoy that, I think. I'm basic in that way. But yeah, I really like where it ended. So that's two thumbs up for me on that part. I will say that getting there felt a little messy for the reasons we've already talked about. But two other main points, well, three other main points. One, quick shout out for the I felt the feels when after the huge battle, and I will say this one thing does work because Rand's mom, I'm forgetting her name, battled so many people. For then at the end to have Tam like reach out a hand and for her to hold it and for her to be so relieved that that's
Mm,
what's happening,
mm,
that moment really did hit for me.
mm.
It was a really sweet moment, I thought, between the two of them.
Yeah.
So that I liked. But then getting the Rand backsplaining where we actually got to see him with his dad, right? And then we saw obviously, him using the power when he knocked the door down, and it
Mm,
was him that knocked the Trolloc off. I feel like some of that stuff did did work. I had some moments of like, oh, so it was him who knocked the Trolloc off. That's cool. And so that sort of worked for me for this
Oh, I
style
know
of
what you're mad
reveal.
about. I know what you're mad about. That
What am I mad about?
there was no flashback
Bella?
to him healing Bella. That's you're like that's how you know you're one
That's how you
dragon
know,
right
bro.
there. That's how you
That's
know
how
one
you
dragon.
know. Bella's gone. Bella died like whatever. I mean, maybe she's around somewhere. I don't know. But
She's still back in
so
Spooky Town, just like you
she's
know.
still back at Spooky Town. But what I was just gonna say is that I'm curious to hear people's responses for how did they relate to that flashback series, because some of it was stuff we had seen, some of it wasn't, and I'd say it kind of worked for me. The thing that didn't work for me was, why was it that moment that Rand like had this whole awareness? Like, sure, we could maybe say post coitus that he was, in the Zen
A
place,
lot is clear
and
then in those moments.
not as clear in that moment. And so maybe that's why. I mean, we do have the wind saying that to him, because it shows the wind saying that. And he is crying afterwards, but I feel like the rest of the episode, he's not acting like he's the Dragon Reborn. So I don't know. I feel like the wind saying it was too much. And I wanted something in that moment when he's in bed that made him think of it. Because otherwise, he doesn't seem like he's acting true to his character in the majority of the episode. Now, I didn't think about any of this until after watching
Right.
it. I was just kind of in the moment and happy with where it ended. But looking back, I'm like, wait, this feels like it doesn't all quite fit to get to this end result, which I like. But again, that's why I say it was a little messy to get there,
Yeah.
personally.
And do you know why you're feeling that, Jeff?
Talk to me.
Because reveals are terrible. Reveals like never work. They're awful. They're
I
terrible,
should have.
and
How
they
did I
need to
not
be
know?
outlawed in bans.
How did
This
that
is like
reveal surprise me? Like, how did I not know the
yeah, you
person
didn't see that one
what you
coming.
were gonna say?
You didn't see that one coming, and I don't know how you didn't see that one coming.
How did I not see that coming?
I agree,
Um,
right? Because like if you set up this thing
yeah.
to be a reveal, that's exactly you see like the intent behind it. You see like the
Mm,
strings, right? Like you like
yeah.
it doesn't quite work because like you're looking at the gears moving behind the
Mm,
scenes, moving the sets around, right? Like so that's why
yeah.
that's one of the big problems with the reels is that you got to do these
Especially one this
backflips.
long.
Yeah, one that long, and then to
Mm,
make it happen, then do these quick cuts. I did think like
yeah.
him using it wasn't Egg using the power, him using the power. By the
Mm.
way, what was that Trolloc like supposed to be very like emaciated or something that
Yeah,
was in the
it was a
ways?
different like type of Trolloc. I was
Like,
like,
and he
oh,
had been
what
stuck. Like, I wasn't even sure that was a
yeah.
Trolloc, but then somebody says it's a Trolloc, and I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
if you guys say so.
It
But
did it looked different. It was like they breed him different in the ways or
right,
something. I
right.
don't
Which I could get if he's like been stuck in there or something.
know.
He's real sickly or
For
something.
sure.
But
Yeah.
like, but that just felt, yeah, it felt like kind of cheesy. Like, oh, you didn't see
Yeah.
it. You thought it was her using the power. It was really him, and his power kind of goes over hers.
Mhm.
Yeah, this
I
is
think the
all
thing is
reveal
there's no way to
sickness,
know.
dude. It's all reveal
Yeah.
sickness. Like, it just, I don't like them. So, but,
I think reveals are just really, really tricky to do right, and it's just
mm,
so easy to do them wrong. Um, so yeah, but I will be curious, of course. I think most of our viewers knew, right? But it's not like you and I are checking out other sites too to see what people are saying. So I am curious just how everyone felt about it, whether you knew or not, what it was going to be. I will say the show almost had me convinced they were going to do a multi-dragon with this continuing to push, like
mm,
everyone but the dragon dies. I was like, well, I guess the only way you save them is for them to all be the dragon.
mm.
So it did almost convince me they were going to do that. So I will say that is one upside of them
Kudos,
doing
kudos.
crazy stuff early in the show. I believe they would do anything.
Mm,
So yeah, the last final thing I got to talk about is just the Min scene, which to me again didn't quite work. Don't get me wrong, I like the Min scene. I was so glad to be getting Min, but I didn't understand why Min kind of lied to Moraine. I guess if Min can see stuff, then she knew he was coming back, but that's not quite how her power works, but whatever. Let's say she knew, oh, I'm going to lie to Moraine, so then he comes back, so then I can talk to him. Okay, is it because she wanted to tell him about her first vision, which just happened to be about his dad? I mean, that coincidence. It was just weird. Like I couldn't put my finger on what
So
Min
what?
wanted out of this exchange.
What's her
Um,
lie to Moraine? What did she lie about?
oh, well, Moraine asks her, who's the dragon, right? And she's like, I don't know. Well, Moraine asks, do any of them stand
Uh,
out more than others, right? And
uh,
she's like, no. And plus the Rand holding up baby, that I
right,
actually went back and checked the book on that. She says, Min says tons of stuff about Rand.
right, sure.
That is not one of them. So
Yeah.
I'm like, why that one, right? Like,
Was
why
any of
why
it the
didn't you
same?
pick?
I don't really remember any of it being the same.
I
Like
want
she
to
didn't say
say,
wolves. She definitely says about Perrin wolves in the book.
right, yeah, it's more just
And she
eyes in this
definitely
one.
says to Matt something about this gem or something.
Right, exactly. Because it
And
all
like an
happens a lot
eagle, maybe
sooner.
I can't remember.
Yeah, an eagle,
And
right.
I was
Exactly.
like
So
listening, and I didn't do the research beforehand. Everybody, I'm sorry, I did not do my due diligence
I
of looking
just did
back.
it for
But
Rand.
I was like, I
Yeah.
don't feel like any of the things she said in the show were the same as
I,
the things she said in the book.
there's the motes of light and darkness going on. It is.
The
I thought it was
sparks, yeah,
weird.
the
The
sparks. She
sparks. I
says.
thought it was weird that they showed her doing it for each of the guys, but then not for the girls after we've spent so much time about Egwene and Nynaeve. So I thought that was
Right,
strange.
because
But I
that's
did
again just kind of
appreciate.
importing from the book, but it doesn't like
Yeah.
work in this new context where everybody's supposed to be equally as likely. Whereas in the book, she
Yeah.
does only kind of say, "Oh, I see sparks around them too, like you're all connected," and Tom as
Connected.
well is
Right.
connected.
Yeah.
But she talks very specifically about the three boys, like more
Right.
specific in predictions or whatever.
Yes, right, exactly. So maybe they were nodding to that, but anyway, I'll say for the first Min scene, I like that we did get to see some imagery. I thought that was cool.
Mm,
I didn't know why they bothered to change Rand's unless she's lying, but that can't be the case because we saw it from her perspective. So, but then when he goes back and visits and she does know, I didn't
mm.
get why didn't she just tell Moraine then? Like, what did she want to have this conversation with Rand?
Because
She doesn't seem
you
to like
that's
Rand
not the
very
time for
much.
the reveal, Jeff. That's not the time for the
I I
reveal.
th-
The reveal
I
comes
guess that's
later,
it.
and then you see
Or
the gears moving that you gotta like.
or
Are you with
they
me? Are you
knew.
coming around with me here
No, I
on
like the reveals.
reveals are
I
bad?
mean,
Reveals are
listen,
pretty
I
bad.
think reveals are chancy. This here's what I'd say. I would put them the same. Changing an adaptation is risky because you can piss people off, and reveals are risky because it's so easy to do it poorly. So yeah, I would agree that like pulling off a reveal in a satisfying way is really hard. Really hard, especially now where you can just click back and look something. At least with like a VHS, I had to really work for it if I wanted to go back and double check a reveal, right? Like when I'm watching Usual Suspects or something.
Mm.
But anyway, I would say I think maybe they also knew that fans wanted a scene between Rand and Min. Um, I, as a fan, I did, but I don't know how much I want to say without getting into spoilers, but I was kind of just hoping for a little bit more in their relationship as opposed to Min seeming so world weary. I mean, she definitely kept it as a through line throughout, and there were like little moments of something else, but I don't know. Like I said, I just had a real hard time pinning down her character, what she wanted, whereas in the book, you have a much better sense of it. So I don't
Oh,
know.
do you? I don't. What do you? What does
Well,
she want in the
she
book?
said she says some specific stuff to him. Well, I feel like I'd be spoiling because it seems like
Mm.
the show is doing that later. So um, I don't want to like spoil future parts of it
Yeah. Well,
for which
I was a
yeah,
big fan of Min in the book. I
yeah.
ship. That's my ultimate ship. Is the Rand Min ship, and I don't know
It's a good ship.
if that's gonna happen or not. I've
Right.
only read book one, but that's whose side I
Well,
am. I
that's
am Team
yeah,
Min, y'all. I am Team Min, and I liked Min in this episode. I like dug her.
yeah.
I thought she was cool, and I also like
She's
kind
cool.
of like that it wasn't like I don't know that the show wasn't super shipping them because I think that would have been
Yeah,
like pretty cheesy. So like I
yeah.
thought I yeah, I kind of dug everything with her. I didn't really think that much. Again,
Mm.
I think that's just the scaffolding of the reveal that like the pieces
Mhm.
very often are not going to fit together. So I get what you're saying about she seems to be kind of contradictory in what she's saying, but
Mm.
I don't know. It didn't bother me that much because I don't like the whole
I,
reveal to begin with.
I hear you. No, I think you're right. I think a lot of those points that I had trouble with are just the scaffolding of the reveal,
Mhm.
as you said. And I also can agree. This is one that I'm sort of squishy on. I too really like Min a lot. So, I like getting time with her. I thought the actress did a perfectly fine job. I just, you know, wanted to know more of what she wanted in the scene. But to your point about sort of slow burning, the way these two characters may interact, which was the thing that I wasn't saying, but you already talked about the shipping. So I can see that point. I can. If someone was like, nah, we want to go like a slower route with it, be like, all right, we're already doing enough in this episode. I think it
Yeah,
was probably just the
and
awkwardness
let
of
me
the
just
rest.
say, y'all, like I
Yeah.
maybe between you and I, we gave some stuff away, but I was always just theorizing that when we read the book. Like I didn't feel like the book overly hinted towards. Like this was just my fan. That might have been my fanfic as I was reading the book that I
Right,
thought that was
right.
gonna happen.
So
So now I've really
unintentional
pinned
reveal.
you in. Yeah, now
Unintentional reveals. So,
to me as well,
honestly,
everybody. To me
I
as well.
like
So I am
Min
also
as
gonna
a
slap
character.
Jeff for this reveal.
Okay, well, whatever it is, as we saw in the show, we got some Min. What do people think of Min? I thought her tattoos were cool, and I'll leave it there before I potentially get into any more trouble, because who knows with what I've said what actually
Who
happens, and
knows?
who knows in the show. Seriously, there's something else I want to comment on, but I feel like that'll happen later, so I'll wait on it. But I will say again, the show could do almost anything, though Min did say something about three women, so seems like maybe something will happen with that. We shall see.
All right. Well, I'm excited for the final. Oh my goodness! So it's the final one next week,
It's the final one.
and then we're done.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow! What a
yeah.
journey! It feels
It
like I've
has
gone
felt like a
from one
journey.
end of a map to another, very, very far away end of a map. And
I
Jeff,
I
we did
couldn't
it
agree more.
together. We did it together, my
We did. This
friend.
has been really cool. I don't think there'll ever be anything quite like this, especially with us reading Wheel of Time one book. I'm sorry, one chapter at a time, or just one or two chapters and talking about them. And then this show. It has been an epic. That is 100% for sure. And I will say the end of this episode definitely got me geared up and excited to do, because I agree. I think this last episode can really work with this focus, at least initially, on Moraine and Rand. I liked what they did with the Blight. It's different than the book, but all those trees hanging down together look super creepy. So I will say that this episode got me pumped for the next one, and as a show, that's what it should do. So
All right.
kudos to
Well,
it.
sounds good,
And what did you
everybody.
all think?
Yeah, let us know what you think down below. If you leave a
Mhm.
comment, also jam on that subscribe
Yeah,
button, and we will be here next week for the grand
we will
finale. See y'all then.
see ya.